All right, my name is David Sett. I'm the youth pastor at Life Church 360, and this is my friend Tracy Kovach from Arizona right now. And we interviewed him a couple weeks ago and just got to hear his testimony of how God radically changed his life of, this life of crime and drugs and abuse as growing up and just the emotions that causes. And so we got to hear all of that, and we had to cut it short because we ran out of time to hear the rest of his story of what God has done in his life since then. And so we just really want to hear where your life is at now and what God has done. I know you got married. And so I think where we left off was at Teen Challenge. So if you just kind of want to share a little bit about that and just go from there about, what God's done in your life since then.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you guys again. I just hope and pray that some of the things we talked about last time kind of touched somebody's heart and just seeing that there's hope, because the whole idea why I love to do this kind of stuff, and I love to talk to people, and I love to do ministry, and I love to do whatever it is I'm doing to help people, to talk to people like where I came from, and families that are struggling with people who I used to be, people that are on drugs, and the families struggle a lot, and I have a lot of conversations with families a lot. I've gone to these speaker forums before where I was a guest speaker at a forum where it was only families because they didn't know. They were really struggling. A lot of families really struggle with their children when they're doing drugs and doing alcohol, and they don't understand how to. They don't know. They want to give them tough love. They don't know if they want to just cut them out of their lives completely forever. They don't know if they want to they know they don't want to bring them into their house, because every time they do, they rip them off for everything they own. And I don't recommend, if you have a child that you can't trust, that's out there doing drugs, that you feel that'll rip you off, or you feel that you're not safe when they're in your house, or you feel like you could be physically unsafe in your house. I recommend do not let them in your house. It's not a matter of tough love. It's a matter of reality. Because when your child is on drugs and they're at a place like that I guarantee you that they've lost a lot of their feelings, because the drugs are a terrible, terrible thing. So my suggestion is just love them anyways, though. But be wise about it. Be wise in the Lord. Be wise about how God's given us wisdom, his wisdom to know when things could be dangerous, or when things, so just use that, pray about it, but love them anyways, because it's your love, is your continued love. Don't like cut them loose. Don't end your relationship, because that, through all of the stuff, my wife's testimony, all the things that she did, she was a preacher's kid, and her dad started Teen Challenge of Arizona in 1965, and she was out there doing drugs, and she knew all the same people that I knew. We never met each other, and I think that was God's plan. We probably would have killed each other in our past lives, but and for those of you out there that want to bail out on your marriage, or you're getting ready to get married, go to marriage counseling. Okay, I'm telling you right now, marriage is probably one of the hardest things I have ever done in my life. And I've done a lot of things in my life, and I've been a lot of places in my life, but it's very rewarding when you can use your marriage. Takes three. Okay, there has to be God in your marriage. So, we want to. For me, it's for people like me. I was set in my ways to where, like, this is the way it should be, and people should see things the way I see them. Well, it's just not like that, and it can't be like that anymore when you get married. And I don't want to turn this into marriage counseling, but we're gonna go where God wants to take us, right? So, yeah. So I just want you guys to know, just love on your children, period. Just always love on them. My wife's mother, when my wife was off in her mess, or her mom said for 30 years she did nothing but pray, but all she knew how to do was just love her where she was at. And you can find my wife's testimony, Deborah Kovach, on YouTube as well. It's DEBORAH, Kovach. Just Google her name, and her testimony for 700 Club will come up also.
We might have to interview her, or we might have to interview her in a few weeks.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, she's probably going to kick me right in my shin, because she is not a speaker. You know what I mean? I did that to her one time at Teen Challenge. They were like, Tracy, come up here and tell your testimony. We were on a bike run, a motorcycle run, and I had already told my testimony down down at the induction center, and we rode up to the Christian Life Ranch. So when we got up to the ranch, Pastor Rick said, "Hey, Tracy, tell your testimony." I was like, "Rick, I already told my testimony." I pointed at her like this. And he goes, "Deborah, come on up and tell your testimony." She looked at me. Man, if she still throat punched people, she probably would have throat punched me. Praise God, she doesn't, right? But,
yeah.
So I want to get to continue from Teen Challenge and how I ended up marrying the founder's daughter of Teen Challenge of Arizona. So that's, believe me, the last thing I thought was going to happen. I wasn't looking for a wife. I was trying to be selfish with God. I was like, man, I'm going through the Teen Challenge program. I became choir director there and a staff member, and I'm just like on fire for God. I'm an intern at the time, actually, and I'm like, Lord, it's me and you, and this girl. Okay, so I had written my testimony to a newsletter when I was in prison called Overcomers for Christ. So I wrote my testimony. His name's Wade Anderson. They call him. They used to call him Duck, but Wade Anderson is he runs Overcomers for Christ now. My wife and him were the founders. So I was at a Teen Challenge banquet, and he showed up, and he wanted to meet me because now I'm out, and he wanted to, we had talked to each other a couple times, and he was coming and ministering to me, and he brought this girl with him, and he's like, and I found out later he didn't actually bring her; she actually brought him because her dad was the founder of Teen Challenge of Arizona, so she got the tickets and she brought him. But anyway. So he introduced me to her, and I was like, "Hey, hi, how you doing?" I'm not focusing on ladies. I'm just focusing on what God is doing in my life. Yeah. And so we met each other, and he came back a few times when I was in Tucson. He would come back there, and she would bring him down there, and we'd go to church together, and just minister. It was just ministering to me. And she had given me her phone number. She said, if you ever need struggling, you need prayer, whatever, here's my number. Just give me a call. So I mean, that's how that started. So one day, I'm talking to God, and I'm telling God, you know what, God, it's me and you, Lord, it's me and you forever. He said, nope, it's me, you, and her. Oh. I'm like, what? Her who? But no, Lord, it's me and you. I don't want her. Her's in trouble. This is the conversation I'm having with God. I'm like, God, no, wait a minute, God, no. I don't want to hear this, right? Because for me, the women in my past life, because of the monster that I was, it was just never a good situation. So I just wanted to be, I'm just like, Lord, no, it's me and you. He's like, no, it's me, you, and her. I'm like, Lord, wow. All right. So I thought I was going to be funny, right? So this is my way of being funny with God. So I'm like, all right, God, if this is really you that I'm hearing from, God, and I'm trying to be a smart aleck to God, right? Come on. I'm like, God, I'm going to throw the fleece out. For those of you that read your Bible, I'm going to throw the fleece out for God right now, right? I want to see if there's going to be dew on it in the morning or if there's not going to be, right? So I prayed. I'm like, all right, God. So I'm an intern in Teen Challenge. So let's see how you fix this, God. If this is really you that I'm hearing from, and you're telling me that this is the woman that's going to be my wife and blah, 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 then I don't have a ring. Okay? Now what are you going to do? So I'm an intern. I don't have no money. I don't have a ring. So how's that even going to work, right? So, dude, so in our midst of her coming with Duck over to the Teen Challenge facility and ministering, I also had like a pass, and we went over to minister to this guy I knew in Mesa while we're over there. So I introduced him. We had a barbecue, and I prayed with him and his family, and we met the family, and I've known this guy forever, and I'm trying to help him understand what God has done in my life. So the next day after I prayed that prayer to God, and I'm like, God, I'll need a ring. Dude, out of nowhere, this guy calls me and he goes, hey brother, so you know that girl you brought over to my house? I'm like, yeah, what about her? He goes, well, my mom said that if you ever decide to marry that girl, she's got a blue diamond ring she'll donate to you. Oh, dude, I was like, oh, look at my hairs are standing up right now. I was like, oh man, I was like, direct. You can't get, I was like, so dude, we never even dated. We never dated. I set up to propose to her like the next week or whatever it was. So we went back to my friend's house. His mom had the blue diamond ring. I couldn't believe it. I was still to this day, I'm just like amazed at how God did that. And I went there and I proposed to her and she accepted. And so what was interesting about that? So after I proposed to her, I was still an intern at Teen Challenge, but I was kind of interning staff because they were short staffed. So I was like, I had already stepped into the role of staff, but not officially, right?
Yeah.
So I had left. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to leave now because she lives in a townhouse in Phoenix. I was in Tucson. She lives in a townhouse in Phoenix. So I'll go out there, move in with her. I'll live downstairs. She can live upstairs. And then I'll go over to the Teen Challenge in Phoenix and I'll say, hey, I'll work here. So I'll apply for a job at Teen Challenge in Phoenix, and everything will be good. And then we set a date for 12/11/10 was our date that we set for the wedding. Now, mind you, this is in July. No, this was in September now. Okay, so we're in September already. So it was like September 22nd or whatever it was. So I go to Teen Challenge, and Teen Challenge tells me, nope, no, we can't use you. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, you're living with a woman without being married to her, and we can't use you. Ooh, I was like, so my flesh. So now, come on now. So now my flesh wants to rise up, right? So I want to, like, because I'm mad now. What are you talking about? I know. Look, I'm living downstairs and she's living upstairs. We know we're not doing anything. So who do I call? I call her dad. Call my wife's dad. Dad, listen. This is what Teen Challenge told me. He goes, let me tell you something. He goes, even the appearance of sin can be sin. Oh, I was like, I didn't even think about that. He goes, even though you guys know that you're not doing anything with each other from the outside, nobody knows that. And the way the world is today, the appearance of sin can be sin. I was like,
that's good.
Man, I called my wife, or at the time fiance. I called her. She's at work. I go, you need to come home right now. She's like, why? I go, we need to go to the Justice of the Peace and get married. She goes, what are you talking about? I explained to her what was going on. She goes, I'll be right home. So we went right to the Justice of the Peace that day and got married.
That's awesome.
We never even dated. So, and I know God had it designed like that, because the lives that both of us had lived. I mean, the first year of marriage, the first couple of years, I mean, marriage is one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. It's increased my prayer life immensely. Because, you don't think about how, you think, okay, two people are going to come together, we're going to get married, and it's going to be roses and dandelions, and we're going to live happily ever after. No, listen, marriage is not easy, especially when you're coming from the lifestyles that we both came from: drugs, alcohol, abuse, and just all the things that happened in our lives. And we're coming together, even though we're both at the time and still sold out for Jesus completely. Just totally just give everything to God and let God do what he's going to do in our lives. And we live that in our lives, even though we have that in our lives. So I'll give you some, they're funny stories now, but at the time they were not very funny. So I snore. Okay. I snore. Right. Okay. I mean, I snore loud. I don't just snore. I rumble stuff. Right. When I was in prison, people would freak out because of my snoring, and the cops would have to bring in buckets of earplugs so everyone could have earplugs. So I snore bad. I'm trying to explain. I don't know how to explain how bad I snore, but I snore bad. I don't hear myself, so I don't think I even snore, but there's people around me that have tried to commit suicide because of my snoring. So I know I snore. So I snore. So, I mean, I fall asleep, and I'm one that kicks my leg. I don't know. Is there any leg kickers out there when you're laying in bed? You want to kick your leg? Well, that was me. I like to kick my leg. Well, she's a very light sleeper, and the bed would move. I would kick my leg, and she would bounce. I don't know this. This is what she's telling me. And then I'd fall asleep, and I told her, look, if I'm snoring, just nudge me, and I'll turn over. She'd nudge me. Okay, I'll turn over. Nudge me again. Okay, turned over again. Nudge me again. I'm like, okay. Listen, all right. Was I snoring again? I was not even sleeping yet. Am I snoring? You're snoring. I'm going, okay. All right. Go to sleep. Now she's kicking me. Okay, wait a minute. Listen, why are you keep kicking me? You're keeping me awake. She goes, you're keeping me awake. I'm like, listen, I'm not doing it on purpose. You're doing it on purpose. So we would have these, that was the beginning of our marriage. We're getting to know each other. We don't even know each other. We're like, this is how we're starting, right? So she told me, why don't you go down and do a sleep study? So I went down, did a sleep study, and they told me I stopped breathing 99.9 times an hour. I'm like, what does that mean exactly? They said you never went into REM sleep, so I didn't know what any of that meant. So I got a CPAP, and I love my CPAP now. I take it everywhere I go when I travel. I take it with us. I pack it with us, because if I didn't, I would probably be sleeping somewhere else. I'd have my own room probably. Remember, Teen Challenge, they makes jokes out of that, because we would go do ministry in different counties, and different churches, and I would actually get the whole sanctuary to myself. I would sleep in there, and everybody else would sleep everywhere else. So I mean, I was like, well, that's kind of cool. There's some positives to it. So I did a sleep study, and and I love my CPAP now, and so does she. But we've gone through a lot of things in our marriage, and I'm not gonna lie. There's been times I was like, you know what, I can't do this. I came from a life of misery, and I'm not going to live miserable the rest of my life. And it's just, we couldn't get this communication down. And so, I mean, we're totally two different people. We think different. We everything about our lives are just different in the way we think, the food. I mean, I'm a meat eater. She's a vegetarian. You know what I mean? I'm up at 4:00 in the morning grilling steaks. She's like, she's making her oatmeal and a salad for lunch. You know what I mean? That's how we live. So, but we had to get used to that. So anyway, so I started out. So I went from that, and we ended up buying. So I ended up getting a job. So I did start working for Teen Challenge as a paid fundraiser. So I would do door to door. They gave me a paid position as door to door because God had me doing so well, right?
Yeah.
So then I got a job at a car wash as a ticket writer because I'm an ex-felon. I have all these felonies. So I mean, but I was determined to work, and it was a car wash. I mean, if I could have worked at McDonald's, it was going to be whatever I could get. Just so happened to be a car wash. So I remember when I went to the car wash, the boss sat me down. He was from Lebanon. He sat me down and he said, "Have you ever sold anything?" I go, "Does drugs and stolen vehicles count?" He said, "They do, absolutely." I go, "Well, I was really good at that." He goes, "You're hired." Okay, cool. This will work out great. So I started working there. I ended up working there. He would let me keep my Bible out. I prayed with him every morning. I had my Bible sitting out, and it started many conversations. I met a lot of people, great conversations, met a lot of Christian people through there, coming in and seeing my Bible, and boom, these conversations would start, and I got to pray with a lot of people, and it was just great. 4 years I worked there. And I remember I kept praying to God after the 4th year. I was praying to God. He was going, "Really, God, a car wash? I know you're bigger than a car wash." But I mean, the way we think, especially people that have been to prison and have are ex-felons, and we think that there's nothing for us because society has drilled it in our heads that there is nothing for us out there. Well, let me tell you guys something. The world is changing. So there is many positions out there for us. The behavioral health field, they are looking for people like us. I mean, some of their greatest staff are people that have the most records. So because they call it peer support, who can talk to people like us? People like us. So it's great. I love it. So I worked for the car wash for 4 years, and then I got a job working in behavioral health as a recovery coach. And now I got a job at another company, been with them for 4 years as a case manager. So I work with the SMI population, seriously mentally ill population, and substance abuse. So I'm a case manager, and I do court advocating for them, I love that. I go into the courtroom, I get to sit with the judge, the prosecutor, the probation officer, everybody. I sit with them in their chamber, and we do what's called staffings before the court, and I tell them what I believe should happen to my client. Isn't that amazing? All the time that I did in prison and jail, now I'm sitting with the court, and now it's got to the point now because of what God has done in my life. It's gotten to the point now when I walk into a courtroom and the court turns around and sees me, they're like, "Oh, good, Tracy's here. Now we're going to get something done." I'm like, and that's such a rewarding feeling coming from where I came from. And I go to court and they're like, "Oh yeah, you're going to prison for life, Kovach," to going to now, "Oh, Tracy's here. This is great. Now we're going to get things done." I mean, it's been a lot of work. I decided when I was in Kingman prison, my last time I was in prison, I decided to get my education of everything I could possibly get from anger management, cultural diversity, 18 college credits for building trades, OSHA certification, just everything. I have a stack of certificates like this because I just wanted to figure out how to do something different with my life than what I was doing. I wanted to continue to follow God. I didn't want to get back out to the street, and the biggest trick in the world is getting back out to the street and going back to your neighborhood where you came from. Ain't nothing's changed in that neighborhood. It's all the same exact neighborhood. And if you've changed, don't go back to the same thing. Because if you've changed and you've given your life to the Lord, say you gave your life to Jesus in jail, like I did, don't get out and go back to your neighborhood because it ain't changed. So you want to go hang around with people that are like-minded now. See, those were the like-minded people you hung out with before. Now you want to go back to where like-minded people are, and that's not them. So if God is going to call you to go back to those neighborhoods and preach to the people that you used to hang out with, you'll know it. Don't take it upon yourself to go to that neighborhood and tell everyone, because this is what happens. So if you're not rooted and grounded in the Lord, it's just a matter of time before you go back to what you're doing, because if you hang out in a barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut, period. There is no doubt about it. It happens 1,000 times. I've gone through it 1,000 times. Before I even had Jesus in my life, when I thought I wanted to get my life together, I would get out, go back to my neighborhood, think that now I got it all together because I learned some new stuff. I learned what got me in trouble, so I'm not going to do that again. And if I do, I'm not going to do it that way again. I'm going to do it a different way because that way didn't work. And it's just all a trick. It's all a trick. And so what would happen was I'd go back there. I wouldn't start using meth or heavy drugs. I'd drink beer. I'd drink a couple beers, watch a football game. Oh, yeah, I'm doing great. Look, showing everyone how healthy I look. Man, I've been working out the whole time. Look, I'm clean. I'm sober. I'm healthy. I drink that first beer, then it turns into a 6-pack. Then the next week, it's a 12-pack. And then all of a sudden, I'm drunk, and I'm hammered drunk. And now my stupid mind, when I get drunk, see, I don't touch alcohol today, ever. 13 years, I haven't touched alcohol ever again. I never will. And there's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't say in the Bible you can't drink. As a matter of fact, they drank wine. Jesus drank wine. They passed out wine. I mean, but for me, if you know something is not good for you, do not do it. For me, I know it was always the beginning of the end for me. So I just don't do it. So, and that's me. I mean, and if you think for a second, I see guys all the time that think, well, you know what? Alcohol was never my problem. It was always drugs. Well, I was just talking to a guy the other day that told me that. You know what? Alcohol was never my problem. It was drugs. But see, alcohol was always the beginning of the problem. See, because when I would get drunk, now I'm slosh drunk. I got to go find a meth dealer, and now I ain't got no money. In my head, I'm just a stupid idiot anyways at the time. So I'm just going to rob the meth dealer with a pellet gun and do drugs. Now, so that works out great. Robbed the meth dealer with the pellet gun, slammed dope right in front of him. Now I'm spun. Now I got to go find some heroin to come down after I've been up for days. Now I do some heroin. Now I'm sleeping. Wake up the next day and got to do it all over again. And it's always this vicious cycle. And so, I mean, it's just this vicious cycle. So if you know something, so for me, I don't touch it. So if you're not, so I didn't want to go back to my neighborhood. I wanted to continue to follow God, and I was going to take any drastic measure that it took to do that. So what God did was God opened the door for Teen Challenge for me, and that's how I ended up in Teen Challenge. So, I mean, I talk to guys all the time that are in jail and prison. That's what I do now, prison and jail ministry. And guys are always going, hey, man, so how long is Teen Challenge? And I'm like, well, it's 13 to 15 months. And they're like, well, hey, do you know of a program that's shorter than that? So I always know, I mean, because God designed Teen Challenge and programs like Teen Challenge for a reason to be that long, because we did drugs our whole lives, we did alcohol our whole lives, and it doesn't take 30 or 90 days to get that out of you. So if you're just coming from jail or prison and you're like me and you met God in jail or prison, don't get out and think that a 90-day program or that you can go into a halfway house, because the majority of halfway houses are infested with drug addicts. Go into a program where there's zero tolerance for drugs and alcohol and all that, because then you're going to be in an environment where there is not drugs and alcohol and all that. Because I guarantee you, again, if you go to a program that you're going to get out to this program, you get out to that program where there's drugs and alcohol being done, you're going to eventually do drugs and alcohol. It's just going to happen. Yeah. It's going to happen. So since then, so now I've been asked to be a director of the workforce director of another company starting up that's going to be working with ex-felons getting out of prison. So I don't want to get into too depth of that, because I know my boss, my current boss, is on Facebook, and if this goes on Facebook and she actually watches it, then she's going to go, really? Because she doesn't know. She'll know when I give my 2-week notice. So, I mean, I love the job I work in now, but I mean, God is taking me to another level, and that's what God has been doing already. And my boss knows. She's talked to me about it. She said, you know what, your calling is in ministry. Your calling is working with the guys, because I do prison ministry now. They let me actually go back into the prisons now. I'm a pastor. So, I mean, that's my passion. When I get done leaving the prison, I'm just on fire. My voice is gone from talking so much, and I'm just encouraging these guys and just on fire. I can talk to these guys because we have the same language, but they want to know. Their question is, how, Tracy, did you go from where I'm at right now? I knew who you were before. How did you go from where I'm at right now to where you are now? And I tell them, look, it has not been easy. It has not been easy. It's been a lot of work. For the past 13 years, it's been a lot of work, but it's been worth it. There's a joy, and it's not even near as much work as doing meth every day, having to go do whatever it was that I had to do to go get my meth, to go to the ends of the earth, to sacrifice my life to do whatever I had to do to get meth. And I look back on that and just think, you know what? I decided to take all that energy and all that know-how and all the things that I learned and all the drive that I had and put it towards doing something new in life, to be the person I am today, to get where I am today. And of course, I can say this a billion zillion times: we can do nothing without Jesus, but we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. All things through Christ who strengthens us. If it wasn't for Jesus, I don't know, I would not be doing the things I do, because God and Jesus opens that door for me always. And I always tell my wife, when I was at the car wash, she's like, well, why don't you apply for something else? I'm like, nope. When God opens that door, it is going to be wide open. All I have to do is walk in it. I go, if I try to kick a door in, it's not going to happen. I can kick that door until my leg breaks, and if God's got it shut, it ain't opening. I guarantee it. So I just want to wait on God. I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time trying to kick doors open that God doesn't have open. I'm going to wait on God. I'm going to be still and know that God is God, and that God is preparing me wherever He has me. He's preparing me to get me to the next level, and that's what He does. So again, I was at this job for 4 years, and God opened now this door wide open to where, I mean, I'm established in the community where this guy, the executive director of this program, he calls me up and says, dude, everywhere I go, I hear your name. Whether it's in the jails, the prisons, whether it's at the courts, whether it's in the community, whether it's in the faith-based community, whether it's in the behavioral health community, everywhere I go, I hear your name. I want you on my team. And I'm prepared to give you this position right here. And I'm like, that's Jesus right there. And this man is a sold out Christian, sold out for Jesus. I love him. He's so amazing, man. And everybody that works in this company, we're just all sold out for Jesus. We're all have recovery stories, and God is bringing us together for this purpose, for this program. So it's just amazing to see this whole thing come together.
That's incredible. And I'm thinking back on, your testimony, and it can relate to so many of, our students. A lot of, the majority of the students that we have, a huge portion of them come from abusive homes and come from abusive families where, their parents don't care where they're at or what they're doing. And so I just kind of wanted you just to touch on that for a second, because you came from that home of abuse, and, that kind of pushed you, into drug addiction and doing that to try to feel, a sense of numbness, I'd say. And, I did the same thing, not having, my biological parents in my life. And so I did drugs to try to fill that void. So what would you speak into the life of a student right now that is going through abuse, that is doing drugs?
I would say this. First of all, detox. Get to a place where you can detox. Second of all, let it go. Listen, I know for me, okay, and I'm going to speak to me, and I might be speaking to somebody else out there. For me, I had this hate and this rage against my parents that I felt like I wanted to harm them so bad, because I felt that it was their fault where I was at. It might have been their doing and their lack of accountability, their lack of being the parent that when they had me. Listen, there's so much. I can blame it on them that I stayed where I was at, but that's not their fault. They might have been a part of how I ended up where I was at in the first place, but it was my fault that I stayed where I was at. But listen, so this is the advice I have. So when I let go of the rage, and when I decided, you know what, who cares? I wasted a lot of time worrying about trying to think in my head that they owed me something. The whole world owed me something because I was in the place where I was at, and it wasn't my fault, and the whole world owes me something. You know who owes you something? You. You are the one that owes you something, and you're the only one that can help you come out of this. Don't blame your parents anymore. Let it go. Forgive your parents. If Even I'm talking to the Christians and I'm talking to the non-Christians. Okay, listen. If you're at a place in your life where you're like, well, I don't know about this whole God stuff. That works great for God stuff. But listen, I've heard it 1,000 times. I'm not even talking about that right now. What I'm talking about is doing something for you. Doing something for you, because the reward of that, when you'll get to a place when you do something for you, you let that go and you realize, you know what, I got to do this. I got to do this for me, because I'm sitting around waiting for these things to happen. And I'm going to sit around in this pity party that I have going on. And I'm talking to me. This is me. This pity party that I had going on, and want to blame everybody. So I'm just going to do drugs, and I'll show everybody. I didn't show anybody anything. I showed everybody that nothing. I didn't show anybody anything, not even myself. So get to a place where you're in a perfect place. If you're in a program, or you're here at this program, wherever you're at, you're in a place right now where you have the opportunity to make a U-turn. Boom, make a U-turn, change it around, decide, you know what? I am going to figure out to do something different with my life. I'm going to dig into that. I am going to do everything in my new life that I never did in my old life. I am not going to bring any of my stuff. This is important, guys. Do not bring any of your old stuff from your old life into your new life. Period. Because if you do that, and you're doing nothing but putting a different label on your old life. That's all you're doing. So what you need to do is just start brand new. Start brand new. I'm telling you, I don't even know how to say this to everybody. I'm just telling you, this is what I did. I started brand new. I decided that I wanted to have something in life. I didn't want to live in the trash can anymore. I didn't want to live in a park bench anymore. I didn't want to live every day waking up hungover, every day strung out, every day having to go find my next fix, and then watch all these people around me having these lives. And I want to blame them too, because they have these lives. It's not their fault. It was my fault that I was where I was at. And I had the opportunity finally, when I was looking at the rest of my life in prison, for me, it was that Jesus, I could hear God speaking to my heart and telling me that, listen, there's something different for you. You can have something different in life. But it took a lot of work to get where I was at. I had to decide to let those people go. Listen, I'll ask you guys something right now. The guys that are watching right now that think all your homies are your homies, that are keeping you down, that when you get out of wherever you're at, they hand you dope and say, what's up, homie? Here's a beer. Here's some dope. Listen, I know I used to get out and people would hand me an ounce of dope and go, hey, what's up, bro? Here's an ounce of dope. Man, those people ain't your friend. Who in the world is your friend that's going to hand you an ounce of dope? Hand me a job. If you're coming up to me and going, hey, bro, it's good to have you out. I got a job for you. Oh, really? That's a friend right there. You want to get around people like that got something for you that's going to help you in life, not something that's going to drag you back. Get to a place. And if you think you're going to try to help people that are in that life, listen, help yourself first. But you can't go back and help people when you're in worse shape than they are. You can't. As much as you think you can, as much as you can come alongside them and be their friend, you can do so much more when you've gotten yourself together and come out of that, because then you have the ability to go back to them. Then they're looking at you going, what do you got? How did you get from where you were at to where you are now? Because you were where I'm at right now. You were there, and now you're where you're at. How do I get there? Now you have the opportunity to, all you have to do is just explain to them in detail how you got from where they're at to where you are now. Yeah. Now you're helping people. Now you get to see, I get excited about doing this stuff right here, because now I get to talk to people. I go to schools and talk. I go to schools. I go to everywhere, churches all over, everywhere. I talk everywhere. And I love that, because I've always wanted to help people. I was just needed help more than anybody else before I could help anybody else. And now I got the opportunity to help others, and I love it.
That's so awesome.
Just let it go. Start something new in your life. Then you'll be able to go back someday and maybe even help your parents. If they're lost doing drugs and doing whatever, maybe you might be the person that'll take them out of that. Maybe they'll see you as that example and say, man, okay, what's going on with you? How come you want some dope? No? You got your own place. I don't got to kick you out of mine? What? You know what I mean? So you'll be able to show them an example of how to live. Maybe they don't know how to live.
Yeah.
You ever think of that? Maybe they don't know what they're doing. You can't blame them for that. You don't know what you're doing either. So maybe they didn't know, and they're stuck not knowing what they're doing, and they just brought you along for the ride. Now nobody knows what they're doing, so somebody has to figure out what they're doing to break this cycle. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's total confirmation, because I actually preached a message on Sunday, and I didn't know what the title was going to be. I changed the title twice, and I prayed to God before I went to bed that he would show me what he wants me to preach. And in my dream, I was preaching my message, and I said, the title of this message is Let Go. And
Oh,
so
wow.
that was just Sunday. So that's a total God thing. And then one other thing that people were asking is they wanted to see your tattoos and hear the meaning of them.
My whole body's covered in tattoos. I mean, I can't show you all of them, but
Yeah, we don't
this
want
one,
to.
yeah, this one here is the symbol of chaos. So the reason I got this tattoo was because it represents chaos. And that was my life, and my head was chaos. So I don't know if you've seen my 700 Club testimony, but all of it, I mean, I have skulls. I mean, just skulls and just evil, wicked stuff. And it's just all it was just all representing where I was in life. So I've actually covered up the white power that was on my stomach. It's now got roses where it said white power is roses. And then where the SS bolts were at is Jesus on the cross. And the reason I put that on there was because Jesus died on the cross for that sin. So it only made sense to put him there where that sin was, dying on the cross to cover up that sin. So
wow, that's incredible. Yeah. And I'll share that 700 Club testimony again, just for people that want to see. It gives you really awesome visual. And thank you once again, Tracy, for doing this, and the people, that heard your story, they were impacted, and I got a lot of text messages of people that touched their life. And so I'm thankful for you.
I just want to, again, God just put this on my heart right now. I just want to, again, speak to the families. The families see this too?
Yep.
Yeah, so I really want to speak to the families. Listen, my wife's mom for 30 years prayed and held on. And she said that all she knew how to do was just love her daughter when her daughter came around. And that love kept that bond going, so that when my wife decided to come out of where she was at, and when God brought her out of that and delivered her from all of that, the relationship, that love held her tight. I see it time and time again when parents just decide they're just going to cut their kids loose. I'm not doing this anymore. I can't do this anymore. It's driving me nuts. Listen. I'll tell you guys the same thing that someone told me about my marriage, because your relationship with your kids is non-negotiable. Okay, so when I was talking to a marriage counselor about my marriage, he told me, he said, when you said I do to your wife, you said I do to all of her baggage, you said I do to all of her problems, you said I do to all of the stuff that you're complaining to me about that she's doing and that you see this wrong with her. You said I do to all that. So now you need to figure out how to humble yourself and how to love on her where she's at, no matter what. You don't have that option to say no. So I'm telling you parents that right now, because your kids need you to be there no matter what. I don't know what that looks like or how that'll look in your lives, but I know that needs to happen. I know that your kids need to know that no matter what happens, mom and dad or whoever it is, I know that they got my back. I know if I'm going to prison, I know I can call my parents. I know whatever happens, I know if I want to share something within my day, see, because you'll build this rapport with them to where they'll come to you and share with you instead of rip you off and then tell you and then help you look for your stuff that they ripped you off for. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you kids out there, listen, it's not easy being a parent. You guys, I don't know how many of you kids out there are parents already. So for you kids that are already parents out there, where's your kid? So you think about, because that was I was thinking. I had this hate and rage against my parents, and then ran into my son that I never knew. He ran into him, 30 years old, who wanted to punch me in my face because I was never there for him. And I never dawned on me. Here I am hating my parents because they abandoned me. Here I was, that same exact person in my son's eyes. Wow. So listen, before you start judging your parents for the things that they don't know how to deal with already, you don't know how to deal with your addiction, and neither do they. So give them some love, give them some grace, and come together as a family. Nobody knows how to deal with addiction. Nobody knows what that looks like in different families. Everybody deals with it differently, and everyone has a solution differently. But I'll tell you one thing: communication and love will keep you guys together, and love will get you out of it. I guarantee you.
Amen. Do you want to pray us out, brother?
Absolutely. Lord, in Jesus' mighty name, we just pray. We thank you. We praise you, Lord. I thank you for these people, Lord. I thank you, Lord, for just coming into our lives. Thank you for being able to minister to them. Thank you for giving us what you give us, your knowledge, Lord, to share with others, Lord, in your name. We praise you. I ask for blessing on all of them, Lord, in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
Amen.
So now that should have only gone 40 minutes.